In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in Black and White emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White, where we are coloring conversations on America's canvas. Tonight, our special guest is Coach Emery Cannon. Coach Emery Cannon, CPC, is a certified professional sales coach, author, and founder of Cannon Sales Consulting. With over 20 years in automotive, telecom, and leadership, Emery has helped transform everyday sellers into confident, process-driven professionals. He's the author of It's Not Rocket Science, It's Sales, the Sales Process Workbook, and Because Life Be Lifing, blending practical sales strategies with mindset coaching. On YouTube, Coach Cannon shares motivational content and sells training videos that inspire thousands to take action. Recognized as a Men to Watch in 2025 honoree, his mission is simple: demystify sales and help people turn clarity into income. Whether through coaching, workshops, or his books and videos, Emery empowers individuals to build discipline, overcome setbacks, and succeed with a repeatable process. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to the show Coach Emery Cannon.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
How are you today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am excellent. Thank you for returning to the show.
I really appreciate you asking me to come back again. I love doing the first one. Absolutely did. All my friends loved it. So I really appreciate you. And I think I turned them on to your podcast. It's an amazing podcast. I watched several of them.
So, is there anything you'd like to add to your bio before we jump into the show?
I mean, you really summed it up. I think you're giving me way more credit than I'm due. I really just I like helping people, and that's really the basis of everything I've ever done is, I think since I was 10 years old, I just enjoy helping people.
Well, let's delve into your entrepreneurial journey as well as the work you do with your consulting. Um, can you tell us on your entrepreneurial journey, what motivated you to become an entrepreneur, and can you share a brief overview of your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, when I was a little kid, I promise you, when I was a little kid in school, I always wanted to like own a business. Like I always thought like that was like the thing to be as a business owner, from what I had seen on movies and TV. And so like, I would like to think that I started like my entrepreneurial uh journey even as a kid. I had a car wash when I was like 12 or 13. I put a sign up at the top of the street and was doing uh car washes for $1 back then, in the 80, I think it was like 89 or something, and I didn't know what I was doing. My mom came home and she was like, "You charging $1 for a car wash?" She said the water costs more than $1. I like, how much is the water? I'm using our Dawn dishwashing liquid, and I'm washing cars. Like people were pulling up. It was like a real thing, and I thought I was doing something big. I had a friend of mine back then, and he was helping me wash the cars, and I would give him, a few cents out of the dollars, and so like
Right.
I knew then I wanted to do something that on that kind of scale. Since then, I did a cell phone company, Unlimited Connect. I was very proud of that project. It was right before the uh, uh, when the economy failed. So we did very good work until that point. And so, like, I feel like that was another, notch under my belt. And then now this, and I felt it was time to do something else. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I had a cell phone company since '09. So this was like the perfect blend of everything that I've built myself up for.
Oh, wow. So let's talk about the business coaching. Can you tell us what do you believe are the key qualities of an effective business coach, and how do you embody those qualities?
I think the first thing and the most important thing is awareness, being aware of whatever particular situation you're in, and everybody's situation is different. Uh, I do a lot of active listening so that I can see where the actual pain is. You have to listen to what people want from you, and so I feel like I kind of embody that. But really, it's a lot of gratitude to people trusting me to help them and brainstorm with them to come up with ideas that will make them better.
Oh, wow. When it comes to challenges, as an entrepreneur, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced, and how did you overcome them?
So with actually with this business, it was definitely more challenging than any other thing I've ever done. And the reason why is because you really are starting from ground zero. You're just taking the idea and then setting boundaries of what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do, how far do you have to go, and then really just finding and networking clientele and really being really clear about what you do. It's a lot of coaches out there, right? It's executive coaches, business coaches, life coaches, sales coaches. It's a lot of them. I could probably go on LinkedIn and find a million of them in real time. And
Mhm.
so you have to find a way because all of them are so talented. All of them have something very great to offer you. But you have to find a way to separate yourself, and you
Mhm.
can really get lost in the sauce, like as per se.
Mhm.
You can really lose yourself trying to compete. And so I learned that one, I can't compete. I just have to separate myself from what they do. And that's why I'm real particular about me saying, I do sales coaching, because, it's a lot of executive coaches, but you can't be the master of all coaching. You have to find whatever your niche is. And I know that me being in sales and business for so long, I knew that that would be my niche. And so I just wanted to perfect that to the best of my ability.
So, I mean, but tell us, why sales? How did sales come to be such an easy niche for you to actually, get through, maneuver, and just be successful at it? Why sales?
Well, for me, it's because I already had the process down, to be
Hmm.
honest. Like there is a process to sales.
Uh-huh.
And the process is basically prospecting and then meeting and greeting somebody, which I love meeting new people. So that's like a very easy thing for me to do. I'm not uncomfortable meeting people. But the one thing I would say that I mastered the most is like building relationships.
Hmm.
And so, like, you have to be careful of how you build your relationship with people. Like, especially if you're doing it from a business aspect. So building a business relationship is different from than building a relationship as like a best friend or somebody that you're going to hang out with. You have to have boundaries. But you
Right.
also you also have to let people know that you're open to listening and open to being able to understand what their needs are. And then I'm very good at listening to people's needs, and then selecting the type of service or selecting the type of product or whatever they would need to fulfill what they're looking for.
Hmm.
Finally, once you select something, then it's obviously a close that's involved. But if you did all the other things right, the close is just, a formality. And then the most important thing to me is the follow up. You know, Overcoming objections, for me should be just like a formality, and
Hmm.
then following up with people and making sure they're okay, and then showing people that you genuinely care.
So other than just the networking and being a people person, like, are there like little cues or little things people should understand, like when it comes to going into sales, especially when you hear people say, "What's your sales pitch?" So,
Right. That's so old school. We're so far, far, far away. Look, let me tell you, like I sold cars back in the time where it was like really hardcore sales. Like you
right.
really was, knuckle and grind trying to figure out how to sell somebody. But we're in an era of information right now. you
Hmm.
know it's so much information right here at your fingertips. You can find out everything you need to know about any product and any service on the internet before you even leave the house, and people have researched that for 6 months before they even leave, before they
Hmm.
even decide to do it. They know everything about the product. And what I try to tell salespeople is, what makes you different? I can buy a Chevy anywhere. I could buy a cell phone anywhere. I can go to Verizon, T-Mobile, all those places. AT&T. So I think Sprint and T-Mobile merged, but like you can go anywhere and buy the product. Why am I buying it from you? And that's
Right.
part of the separation. Like, what makes you better? What do you bring to the table that's different from everybody else? And so, like, when I sold, I brought something different because I brought the empathy back into sales. I brought the uh, compassion. And everybody doesn't have that exact thing, but everybody has something that makes them likable.
Hmm. Success stories. Can you share a success story from your coaching experience that particularly stands out for you?
Well, yeah, I feel like all of the my clients in general, I feel like they all are a success story because we came together and we found a common um, goal. We worked on the goal, and any setbacks, we figured out how to get back on pace with the goal. But I can remember one time where I had a client that lost their job in the middle of coaching, and instead of me shying away, like most people would when you can't get paid, I stuck with that person until they uh got another job. And at that point, when they first came to me, they were looking for a better position, and so the job that they were at scaled back.
Hmm.
And while they're looking for something else, that person lost their job. What was
Oh,
incredible about it is, that person had a few coaches at the time. They had, a life coach and a business coach. And, so like those other two coaches, and this is what I mean about separation. They left. They was like, well, you can't pay me. And I was like, well, you know, we can get back on track. But we need to figure out a way for you to get income. And that's what made me nervous, is not the fact that not the fact that they couldn't pay me, but the fact that they didn't have any income coming in. And so, even in my spare time, I was like looking up, positions and things like that on Indeed, and things that they already wanted to do, to the next level of where they already were. Those were the ones that I was sending them,
mm,
and it worked out. Like, they did the interview, they got the job. And I don't I don't think that's my success. I think that's them not giving up on themselves. Coaches have to realize we're behind the scenes. We are here to serve, and help you get there. I'm not there for the glory. So it was nothing I did other than being persistent, being consistent in their life to get them to that point.
Wow. How important is mentorship in the entrepreneurial space, and how do you approach mentoring others?
So mentorship is super important, especially like with young people.
Mhm.
Uh, and I don't think there is enough programs out there because there's so many different kids out here that want to do so many different things. And it's people that came before them that did that, right? That could help them, but I just don't think there's enough programs out there. I mentor, young people when I can, when I have the opportunity, and I don't turn any of them away. You have a question, I'm here to help you. I want to help you because I want you to get where you're going. But I have a mentor,
Mhm.
and so I ask my mentor questions all the time, like, what do you think of this? How would you handle this situation? Can you help guide me in this way? And the reason why you need that is because you don't know everything. I did a post on YouTube, like, you got to have a great team, and that's from front to back. You got to have a great team with you, and you have to have people that support you. You have to have people that will tell you this is not a good idea. You have to have all these people in play. I have people that, edit my books. I have people that look at my content before I put it out. I have people that help me with my vocabulary. I don't know every word in a dictionary, and so you know, you have to be able to take criticism, but if you're going to accept the glory, you have to take the criticism. And so
Yes.
you have to have a strong team behind you, people that keep you grounded so that you can strive to get to that next level.
Now, I saw that post and I actually liked that post,
Yes, yes, thank
because
you.
it was definitely, it was short, but it was to the point, and I liked the way you characterized that with the team. So, with that being said, though, can you tell us, like, when it came to building your team,
Hmm.
what were some of the things that you thought was best, or some of the ingredients or formulas that you were looking for to make your team complete?
So I needed people to do stuff I didn't know about, and people to do things that I didn't like doing.
Mhm.
And so, like, I'm not a I'm not huge, like I said earlier, I'm not huge on vocabulary. So I knew I was going to have to write books to be a part of this, right? To be a part
Mhm.
of this culture of coaching. And so I wanted to make sure I had somebody on my team, one that was able to do that. One, and then I have somebody else that looks at my videos. And, I see it one way, but I'm not looking at it from your view. Like,
Mhm.
and then I have a certain message I try to get out. You know, my message is more for people that are looking for motivation. I'm not the screaming motivator. I'm not the real laid back guy, but I have like a mid, and a lot of those guys that are, they have a lot of success out there, but it's a market for what I do, and we found that market, and we cater to that market. And
Mhm.
the market is for people that, don't have a lot of time but want to get something out of it. So, like, if you read my books, I don't have a 300-page book. I keep it short because I value people's time.
Mhm. Um, what inspired you to become an author, and how does writing contributes to your work as a business coach?
So I would say my first motivation as an author is my mom. She created her first book back in the mid 2000s, and I just watching how she did it and listening to her. I wasn't living in St. Louis at the time. I was living in Nashville, but listening to the process of her doing it and how much fun she had remembering the times of things that she did in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And like that really kind of sat with me for years and years and years. So that was like a big motivation for me. And it helped me because I went to her for advice on how I should do it. Now back then you had to pay big companies to do it, which I was prepared to do. But when I found out, I have another friend that's an author, and I found out that he publishes his books through Amazon,
Mhm.
and it was minimum cost on that, but you get out to a bigger market, and you know that really helped me because the Amazon market is incredible. Like sometimes I wake up and we'll have 5 or 6 books sold the next morning. It's incredible.
Oh, wow. So, so when we talk about your coaching philosophy, how would you define your coaching philosophy, and what principles guide your interactions with clients?
So my philosophy is simple. I like to simplify objections. I used to tell people I overcame objections, but everybody overcomes objections. If you wake up in the morning, you're overcoming an objection. But after I wrote the Because Life Be Life in book, a lot of people was like, you really simplified, overcoming objections. And so like that sat with me like, yeah, I really like what you said and simplifying objections. Like everything is a mountain until somebody runs through the mountain. Everything is a mountain. Everything. So how do we simplify that mountain just to be a molehill? And
Hmm.
brainstorming with clients that think that the end of the world is this, and then they find out like we're going to get over that, move past it, and excel to a whole nother level. And that's what I love is this, like, see the people's face when they reach their goal. Like I
Hmm.
have so many people that reach their goals that they never thought was possible. And it's just like it's amazing to see that. Like watch it, and like I help do that. I help make that dream come true. Like that's it's over it's something I never experienced in like sales, just making somebody's dream really come true that they sat with for 3 to 5 years.
Okay, well, let's talk about how do you measure success for both your clients and yourself as a business coach? And I'm asking that because I know that when you do metrics and you like to measure, or you probably do measure, what's good, what's bad, or maybe what to tweak and how to tweak it. Uh, can you tell us how do you measure that success?
So we measure success based off of start and finish. Like if you start the project, that's the first step to finishing your project. So starting the project, and then we look and see. So like we do a questionnaire when we first start, find out where you're at, what goals you want to meet, and figure out how we get there. So once I get that questionnaire back, I'll have a 30-minute consultation with you, and it doesn't cost anything for that, and we talk about what you want to do. I'll send an email the next day saying letting you know that I have 3 or 4 different ways to get there, and this is how we can do it. Now it's up to you if you want to go which way you want to go on it.
Mhm. Um, what strategies do you recommend for effective goal setting in both personal and professional arenas?
So for personal arenas, as far as goal setting, is being one aware and realistic. So if you're realistic about your goal, then that's something that and it's something that you can attain, and you just need a way to get there. That's what a coach can do.
Hmm.
I don't tell people this is the only way to do something because it's 100 ways to do something. It's your choice to go down which path you want to go down. The key is, knowing what your boundaries are. A lot of coaching is based off of clients wanting to get it done. A lot of people start things and then they don't finish.
Hmm.
They don't have the motivation to finish. I've seen where I've had a client go 6 or 7 rounds with me, and then You don't hear from them anymore, and it's because they're not motivated to finish it. And that's okay. They went as far as they were willing to go. You know, my mom has always said it to me, start something, finish something, whether it's, grade school, high school, the military, or, whatever it is. If you're going to start something, you need to have a goal line of, what you're trying to hit. And then if you want to go further than that, at least get there. That's like getting an associate's and then getting a college bachelor's and then going on to get your master's and so on and so forth. But you got to set goals to hit in between there. Just know that you're overcoming objections. You're reaching something, and that's what we try to set when we're doing coaching. Is look, I know you want to get here, but let's go here first. Like as like a physical fitness coach. I know your goal is 50 pounds, but let's start with 12. Let's get there first, and let's give ourselves 8 weeks to do it. It's the same concept.
So is it that when you help your clients with their goal setting, is this all based on what they gave you in that questionnaire when you do the
Yes,
consult?
everything is based off of things that they put down on paper. And that's
Mhm,
that's where you start at, is what did you originally say? And that's
mhm.
not me holding your feet to the fire. I just want to make sure this is what you want to do.
Right.
And if it is what you want to do, then let's move forward with it. Let's finish the project. But let's hit some small goals. It builds confidence to build small goals, and it helps you get to the finish line.
So, how do you advise entrepreneurs on maintaining a healthy work-life balance?
There's no such thing. There's no such thing. Uh, when you're an entrepreneur, you're 24 hours a day, right?
Ooh.
You just
Oh man.
So there's a difference here, right? Of being an entrepreneur. Let's start there, okay? Now, are you an entrepreneur or are you a business person, right?
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
it's two different things there. Because an entrepreneur can be like me right now. Like, if I stop doing what I do, the business stops.
Hmm.
You get what I'm saying? So what you
Yes.
really did was just create the perfect job for yourself, right?
Okay.
You just created the job that you wanted for yourself. Or are you a business person? Like, if you're out sick for a week, the business continues to roll. Like,
Mm.
the income still continues to come in. It's two different entrepreneurs out there. It's business, and then you created a job for yourself. So you have to figure out which one you are, and then you have to be realistic about it. Everybody, it's funny because a lot of people, I don't want to say everybody because I think that's categorizing, but you know, a lot of people want to be an entrepreneur. But
Mhm.
what kind are you did you just create the perfect job for yourself? If that's what it is, let's find out how to scale that business to make you profitable.
Mhm.
Sometimes you have to pivot in those situations and
Mhm.
see if this is really worth it. How much profit are you making? Is it enough to sustain your lifestyle?
Mhm.
Cost of goods. You have to really have like P&Ls, and you really have to know money, or you have to do what I do, and hire somebody that knows accounting, and that way you don't get yourself in over your head.
Right. Right.
And so, like, when you own a business, like when you're talking about a business that moves and moves and moves, you can take a day off. This person over here can't take a day off because the business doesn't move without them. This business over here, it continuously moves. So it's like a Walmart or a Target, or you have tons of employees that's making it work. You have managers, you have an entire staff
Mhm.
that they don't depend on you, they depend on the product or the service.
Mhm.
So depending on what kind of business you're talking about, uh, and then like a large business scale will be another totally different thing. The idea in your head has to grow. So I always say, like, the person that's over here on this side, they run the company, they're everything to the company. You got to start thinking about succession. You got to, who's going to take care of you after,
Mhm.
because one day you're going to want to retire.
So take us through that process that you use with your clients when you're doing your business coaching. How does
Mhm.
that work from step 1 through step 10?
So, ooh, 10 steps. Step one is, basically, I do a lot of prospecting. I do a lot of going out to meet and greets. I do a lot of networking events as much as possible. And what I like to do is just go out and meet people that need my assistance, and sometimes those networking events work out, sometimes they don't. But when I do, so the first process is, meeting them, greeting them, and then we'll have like a phone conversation like me and you are having right now.
Mhm.
They'll tell me their goals, they'll tell me what they're trying to accomplish. If it's a salesperson, normally what they're telling me is, how many sales they're doing, and they're breaking down how their commission works and what their goal is to get to, their end goal for the year.
Mhm.
So if they catch me at the beginning of the year, they have all year to get there. But if you catch me in October and you want to make, $80,000 or $100,000 and you're only at like 40,000, we have a lot of work to do and we have to work really fast. So then what I do is I pull out this right here. This is my workbook that I pull out, and we kind of go through the steps of the workbook. It's called the Sales Process Workbook, and this works for entrepreneurs and everybody. So
Mhm.
it's a lot of role playing in there, and I would do that. I do that even on the phone. So I'll send them a copy of that, and we'll go through the workbook step by step, things that help them get to better sales. So then every week that we talk, or every 2 weeks that we talk, I send an email. I show them how far they've come to close to their goal, and then I'll come up with a couple of other ideas and plans that would get them to the next level until we finally reach their goal.
Mm. Okay. What role do you think social media plays in businesses today, and how do you incorporate it into your coaching?
So social media is changing by the second. So social media, when it first started, it probably didn't play as much of a role as it does now. So now, you have to be aware of algorithms, you have to be aware of, who you associate yourself with, who you're taking pictures with. It's a real battle in there on social media. I do When I post on any social media site, I'm aware of what I'm posting. But you have so many different kinds of social media posts. You have branding. Are you branding yourself? Are you posting to make people aware of what you offer? So that's different from branding. And so, like, are you offering a product? Are you selling a product? And why do I want to buy this product?
Mhm.
So you have the branding part, and then you have selling, and then you have what do you call it? Influence. And so you have like these three categories right here that that I'm just aware of, that I do. And then you have digital marketing. You have, if you have somebody that does your digital marketing, and then you pay for marketing, sponsorship marketing. And so it's just like it's a huge spectrum there that not one person can handle. And that's what when I talk about, you have to have a team that's out there reposting you and sharing, and like you have to have people out there that have a whole different friends list than you sharing your product. That's the only way you're going to jump into different markets on social media. And I tell even the salespeople that come to me for coaching, like, who's sharing your stuff? What markets are you in? Because you only have 2,000 friends, and so you're only recirculating to those same 30 or 40 people that see it. You got to post 5 6 times a day for people to see your posts. So
Mhm.
it's really about the algorithm and in the importance of people watching it. So
Mhm.
how many people are actually watching your videos or watching your product, and then who's resharing it and who's commenting. All this matters. And it's, it can get tiring. It can be overloading. It could be, you can get tired of it. So it's just like, how do you control that variable?
So, what current trends in entrepreneurship do you find most exciting or promising?
AI. AI is like the tool right now. It's a great
Oh my God.
tool. Look, there is nothing AI can't do for you. It can prepare you for interviews and talk to you and use the voice you want to use. It I look on LinkedIn all the time, and I can tell the difference between an AI post and a person's post. And it doesn't matter as long as it's selling the product. But AI if you're not using it, you need to start learning about it, because they have classes at like community college and stuff. And it's not just one AI tool for you. You got to use Canva, Chat, Copilot. Every single one of them give you a different formula and a different outcome. So coaching is going to get more difficult, like for regular people, because you can get some really good solid advice off of ChatGTP. You can get solid advice off of there. Now, what you have to realize is that it's still a building relationship thing with coaching, and
Mhm.
that part I don't think anybody can take away. And that's where, like, the good coaches and the great coaches are going to start separating. Is
Mhm.
because a good coach can be AI. A great coach is you. Your name, your brand, who you are, and you have to be the best. Because when AI really gets all the way out there, it's gonna shrink things. You can see it like when you go to Walmart, like you just checking out yourself. I was in the grocery store the other day, and they had a little machine cleaning the floor. Nobody was on it. Like
Right.
it's that's AI. Everything is starting to they're starting to shrink people. So you're gonna have to. I think I said this on your last one. You're gonna have to be great at something where they need you. No matter if you're an entrepreneur, if you work somewhere, you're going to have to be great at something.
Mhm. No, you're absolutely right, though. Now you're starting to see that little machine a whole lot more when you go into more than just one store.
Yeah.
And, with it being programmed on a sensor to basically stop and avoid people and then move, that's some serious technology.
And wait for you to pass by and then get back going again. It's
Yes.
and that's just that. And not to talk about like what Tesla's doing and what in the automotive world, like AI is everything. You don't have to do much of anything when it comes to thinking anymore. You just type it in the chat or you type it into Copilot. It's writing your emails for you. If you got Outlook, somebody send you an email, you put the email in Copilot, and then it writes out a response, and you just copy and paste. It's like really becoming mindless, and that's a little scary. I tell you, it's a little scary, especially when you could ask the AI, who am I, and it'll say, well, based off of our conversations, and it'll do that. Like, it's really learning your habits, your and everything that you do. So like that's gonna be the future, and you have to figure out how to either it's gonna work for you or work over you. Let's just put it that way.
Let me ask you this question because I do agree that we all should at some point in time start using AI, but when do you really get comfortable with AI doing the things that it does? Because if it's doing all this thinking and doing all these things for you instead of you just letting it help you sometimes, does that not take away your abilities to think and continue to move your mind and to grow it and to be that great person that you are?
So with my age, I'm always gonna think for myself. But you
Hmm.
have to think about the younger generation, right? And like they just hired like some what generals or lieutenant colonels into the army. It's like what 22 or something. I think I was reading, and because they're tech geniuses, not because they have any war skills or anything, but just because of that. And what they're doing is because they know that the real war is on the computers. Like all of this matters. You know, when you start seeing things like that versus taking somebody that like where the war is not on the ground anymore in real
Right,
life. It's
right.
on the computers, it's in the air. Like AI is taking a lot of weight. I like to think, I like to read, I like to think about situations because, you know, that's just who I am. But somebody that's 20 to 30, they're going to be using AI a lot more.
Hmm. Yeah, that is that instant gratification for the younger folk.
Yeah, and so like my guy that does the videos, and I was like, well, what kind of title are you gonna get? He said, well, let's put it in AI and see what it thinks. and, and, no, for real, it gave us 10 titles.
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, let's try it on our own first and see what happens. And so I'm not against it, but I want people to know who they're getting. It's me. It's me. I want you to know me. That's part of building relationships with me is having that person there for you. The person is still gonna be there.
So, how do you help clients overcome their fears and take decisive action in their businesses?
So that is very difficult sometimes. Some people are not willing to change, and you know at some point, you have to be aware of people's money. When they're spending it with you. Like, look, I want to get you to this, but you have to go past this. And if we keep running to the same roadblock of you not wanting to, change, because you got to think that adapting in business is like the most important thing. Like, if you're not willing to adapt in anything, you're gonna get stuck behind. That's why I'm telling you about the AI things because I don't want to get stuck behind. I don't want to be the last in it. You get what I'm
Mhm.
saying? You want to get ahead of it, and even like uh, you when you thinking about trying to overcome fear, you have to tell people what's on the other side of it is success. But it's hard to get them to believe that if they failed a lot, but failure is just another way to get to success. So like
Mhm.
in my book, Because Life Be Lifing, from adolescence to over 40, I'm showing you that you've been overcoming objections. Think about the things you've already overcame that you didn't even know existed at first. You didn't, every dramatic thing that ever happened to you, if you're still here, that means you survived it.
Mhm.
And it's getting them to realize that, like, what was your last mountain? You do that all the time now, right?
Right.
Your
Right.
last mountain is you're past it. You're
Mm.
on to this one. So, it's getting people to realize that simplify this objection. What about this objection makes it so important to you that you don't want to get to the other side of it? And you get them to do it like a Benjamin Franklin. Watch, write down the good, write down the bad. If the good outweigh the bad, which in most cases it will, you'll get over it.
Mm. Well, I guess that's a good way of looking at that. But I'm sure that from the overall perspective, when you're working with your clients, I'm sure that with the questions that they're asking, that they're pretty much more pointed, but you want to make sure that they have that detail. Do you sometimes think that too much detail is good or is it bad?
I think if you give them outcomes and consistent outcomes of this person did this person did this. If you do this, you're right there with them, and like I think that People just need to see that, but they want to see it without taking the risk. You
Hmm.
know, it's a being an entrepreneur is very risky in itself. So you want to, and a lot of entrepreneurs don't have a lot of money to do a lot of risk. They're taking the risk just waking up and trying what they're doing. And
Right.
sometimes what they're doing is working well enough, but you want to get to this profit. So let's take for example like a restaurant, right? The restaurant reaches capacity, and you look up and you're only making, after all your bills are paid, let's just say this restaurant is only making like 4,000 net profit a month. Let's say that, right? That's not, I'm not giving you a real scenario. I'm just
No, I
giving you
understand what you're
some
saying.
easy numbers, right? But
Hmm.
now, because of the times we're in, the restaurant is at capacity every night and it's only netting 4,000 a month. But you have other opportunities inside of this restaurant. You can do Uber Eats, you could do to go, you could do carry out. But because you're scared that your product won't arrive hot and in the same tact, then you decide not to do that. Well, you're limiting yourself another 4,000 a month of deliveries of Uber Eats, of Lyft Eats and all of that. But that's income that could go towards what you're looking for. That gets you to your goal. You wanted
Hmm.
to make 8,000 net 8,000 after all your bills. Well, you have this opportunity. And these opportunities are in all kinds of businesses. It's not just, I thought the restaurant business would be a little easier to tell you this, but all kind of businesses out there. It's other opportunities inside there, like a barbershop, right? Let's just say a barbershop is making 2,000 a month, right? In haircuts. Well, if they're trying to expand their barbershop, why not put clothes in there and ice cream? Like you have space available that's unused. You don't just have to make it for customers, make it usable space. You're already paying for the space.
Mm. So that's the reason for being a creator.
Yeah.
Let's transition over to your work as an author.
Hmm.
What inspired you to write your first book, and how did that initial inspiration evolve over time?
So my mom is my main inspiration on, like I said, the first book, but also I wanted to contribute to my craft. Like I want to leave sales better than I found it. And so like I tell this story to people all the time. My very first book that I went to go pick up as a salesperson was like 300 pages. And I knew nothing about like sales processes or anything. It was like 300 pages. And I'm sitting there trying to find the base the basics of sales inside of a 300 page Zig Ziglar book. And it's like he's the godfather of sales and I'm trying to learn it, but I'm like I don't have 300 pages of time to learn this job and be efficient at it and keep the job. I want to learn how to sell. And so I wanted to give people something that would help them. So I created this book right here. It's not rocket science, it's sales. And as you can see, it's about 38 to 40 pages long. And what it does is just breaks down the sales process, the real deal of sales. I don't care if you sell a house, a car, a phone, a bed, whatever it is you're selling, furniture, this book will get you there. It will get you to your first sale and it get you to your last sale. This book is very important because it tells you how to actually sell. So that was my motivation is I didn't want somebody to be like me in 2000 looking through a book trying to figure out what do I do first. It's going to tell you that right off the bat. First things first.
Yes, sir. Can you describe your writing process? Do you have specific routines or practices that help you stay productive?
So I'm very messy with it. Like I write down everything I want to say. Everything I want to say, I put it on paper. and then I go back and I type it into my laptop, and then I go back and I look and see if that was everything I wanted to say. It was because that the first time was everything I wanted to say right then. You get what I'm saying? But
Yes, sir.
then it's a process to it. You have to go back because I'm really trying to give people a roadmap to success. And so I want to make sure I told them to go from Grand to Kings Highway, or, Grand to Market, and then turn right at State Street. I want to make sure I gave them real good directions. And so then I'll go back and I'll add details on what I mean. And I might give them a story just to be able to let them, kind of recognize what I mean. But everything really comes from me just writing everything down in a big mess.
So, what are the core themes or messages you aim to convey through your writing?
So depending on what kind of book I'm writing, so like with it's not rocket science, it's sales. The message was, and it's not really a message, it was just a learning tool to help you either be successful or become more successful in sales. I could tell you I sold cars for like 2 years before I even realized I was doing the process. I was concentrating on trying to please people and, listen to them, be active listening and understand what they want. But I was really following a process in that way. So I just want people to understand that, you know, on that first book, that the lesson is the process is easy. It's not rocket science. You don't have to go to a college to make six figures in sales. All you have to do is follow the process and you can be super successful. As far as the second book, Because Life Be Lifing, I just wanted people to understand that life is lifing all the time. And you're overcoming objections every day without even realizing you are. Just as simple as backing up out of your driveway and pressing the brake because somebody's going 50 miles an hour down 20-mile-per-hour street. You just overcame an objection. You recognized something was wrong. You took action and you live through it. Like those are things that I want people to understand is, like don't take the small things for granted. Like, well, of course I stopped. Yeah, but that's because you were overcoming that objection. You overcame that objection so much that it's nothing to you now. And that's how all objections are. You simplify the objection and you will always get over it. It's just you just adding it to your tool belt.
Well, let's talk about your target audience. Who do you envision as your ideal reader, and what do you hope they take away from your books?
Most of my readers are, in sales or entrepreneurs or, people that want to know how to sell. And I think that what I like to, basically tell them is this is not a hard job. Like I can't stress that enough. Sales is not hard. Life is not hard. We make decisions that make life hard. Life itself is not hard. You wake up, you go to sleep, and you don't have to do anything in between there. But if you want more for yourself, then you make decisions accordingly. But along with the decisions you're making, of course, you're going to have to sacrifice. So you're going to sacrifice time, you're going to sacrifice money, something you're going to have to sacrifice to get to, your end goal, whatever that may be.
Mm. Um, how do you believe your books contribute to the entrepreneurial community or to personal development?
Well, I think that my last book, the Sales Process Workbook, I think that directly helps any entrepreneur or anybody in sales. Like if you take that book and you just flip through it without doing any activity, you will learn something from it. Uh, and then the other flip side to it is like back in the day, those 300 page books I used to buy to learn more. And I did learn from those books. It's not like I didn't learn anything. I learned a lot from those books. But they were like $40, $50 for me to buy them. So I keep my books very, very affordable. No more than $12. So that you're definitely getting 10 times more than what it costs you to learn from it.
What are some of the biggest challenges you faced while writing your books, and how did you overcome them?
So I would say the biggest challenge on the it's not rocket science, it sales is me overcoming the fear of putting product out that I wasn't sure how people would receive it. And so like at some point I just had to be like, I don't care. We're putting this out. Like we're gonna put it out because I've already did it. And then you hold on to the book like this is your baby, but it's really the world's baby. This book is not mine, it belongs to the people. And I had to start thinking like that. Like this is for people to learn. It's not for me to hold on to. So like I kept looking at it like I could say more, I could put more in here, but then it takes away from my point is you have to have something short, sweet, to the point because salespeople don't have a lot of time. They don't have a
Right.
lot of time to sit up and read a book, a 300-page book. They don't have it. They're trying to sell something, and so like I try to make sure that I value their time like that.
Can you share a memorable feedback or review you received about your work that impacted you?
I read the Amazon reviews. So I had one guy. I had one that impacted me negatively, and then all the rest of them are 5 stars. And I didn't really know how to take it at first when I saw it was a guy on Amazon on my first book. And it was like, this is trash. But then you got 11 or 12 other ones that say this is a great book, easy to learn from, easy to read. But you always want to take all criticism. Like I like criticism. If you really don't like the book, tell me you don't like the book. Tell me what about it would you change because that helps me when I create the next one. But because life be life, and I mean, you know, everybody loved that book. Like I thought it was a great book. I didn't hold on to that one as long as I held on to the first one. But I put that out there, and people really liked it. We had a few book signings. We got some more book signings coming up, and like that's a really well put together book, just as well as the other two are. And when I realized that this guy that wrote the bad review on Amazon wasn't a verified buyer, then I was like, oh well, he probably don't even really have the book. But we did sell a lot of those books in the streets. Like we were at all kind of events, pulling the books out, selling them right there. So like he could have just bought it from some, one of my team members or something, or it could have just been, fake news. Who knows? But it did hurt me when I first read it because I was like, oh, now I'm a 4.6. I wanted to be a 5 star. Like it really hurt my feelings as far as negative feedback, as far as like my videos on
Mhm.
my YouTube. Um, they can be more exciting, but I'm giving you the real me. Like I'm not trying to find keywords to get you interested in me. When we do conversations with other people, we really are genuinely want to know more about them, and we want them to tell the world about their business and tell the world about their experiences. We make it super easy. It's the easiest platform to do an interview on.
Coach, I got to tell you, I think that's the one great quality that, especially since seeing your content, but also with having you on the show here for the second time, is it's the authenticity. And
Oh,
I
thank
think
you.
there's something about the authenticity, that, where it's just natural for people to gravitate towards, and to feel comfortable. And so I think, when it comes to being authentic, especially when you're out in the atmosphere like we are right now,
Yeah.
that matters more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And all your conversations with people, all of them are like that. Like you make people comfortable to talk about it. You ask some great questions. Like
Mhm.
you know, it makes you critically think. And I think that I'll be honest with you, I think life is getting away from critical thinking, and you know, they're making things too easy to win. And you know, a lot of people said it came from when everybody won the softball, got a trophy at the softball thing. And I remember those times when my every kid got a trophy, and my kids got a trophy, and I was like, it was like in last place. Like, don't give them a trophy. They didn't give me a trophy if we didn't come in first, second, or third. So that was it,
Right,
first, second, third.
right.
Uh, but you know, I think we need more people like you and me to make people think and make people really dig into themselves. And all coaches do this, right? I've talked to so many coaches on my show, and you know, they are I am always wild at them. I'm wild. I'm easily wild, but you know, like, I love listening to how other people think. I love it. I like listening to people talk, and I like listening to other ideas. It helps me think differently. I don't want to
Mhm.
just think from, you know, what I learned as a kid or what I learned growing up, because there's, as I said earlier, it's more than one way to do something. And so I want to know the other ways too, because they might be better than my way. And if
Right.
they are, I want to do it that way.
Mhm. How do you balance your roles as a business coach and an author? Do you find one influences the other?
So I take good breaks. I mean, I wrote 3 books in 12 months, and I got another one coming out in January. But
Mhm.
I already wrote the outline that I kind of want to do on that. And so, like, I'll take September probably and just write a big mess of
Mhm.
stuff, and then I'll come back to it in November and organize it, because I got a busy October I know about already. So I got
Mhm.
busy October and busy August. So I'm gonna write a big mess of what I want to say in this upcoming book, and then just kind of leave it, let it settle, you know, marinate a little bit. And then I'm gonna scoop it up and put it in the oven and bake it up and make it right. And hopefully we can hit the deadline, because I set these deadlines like January 2nd, because I want people to have it for the new year so they can use it. And so um, it's very overwhelming sometimes to flip back and forth. And this is why I say you have to have a great team to keep you grounded and keep you focused on what's important at that moment. And in my mind, everything is important, but everything is not important at that time. You know, you have to be aware of what's important and then focus on that at the moment so that you can be successful at that, and
Mhm.
then you can move forward. But you want to be able to stay grounded enough to start and finish something and then move to the next thing.
What kind of research do you conduct when writing your books, especially when discussing business and personal development topics?
So I don't only take personal experience. I research everything that I say. If I say Forbes said this, I want to know why Forbes said this. So I go look at their charts and everything. I really make sure that the I'm giving you the best information available. Yeah, because I'm not trying to write any fiction books. I'm trying to make sure that what I'm giving you is real numbers, real time, at, you know, by the printed date that I release it and publish it. So I I take that very, very seriously. So seriously, I used to when I was in leadership, people would say things, and I'll be googling it as they were talking about it, just to make verify. And because I try to keep myself that honest. Like, I'm not
Mhm.
gonna tell you something I don't know is true.
How would you describe your writing style and what influences your approach to crafting your narrative?
Um, people kind of like People kind of influence my approach, because I'm thinking about the person buying it. Like, why do they need my book? What about my book is attractive? Like the titles, my titles are not like regular titles, because life be lifing, and it's not rocket science, it's sales. Like I'm trying to put a message just in the title alone. Like it's thought out, and I would say my style like is messy. Like it's super messy when I start out. Like I said, I just write a mess and then I put it together and try to make sure the information is correct. So, I think it's an intelligent approach to writing a book, but I've never seen anybody else other than my mom write a book, and I wasn't like sitting there with her. I would love to know somebody else's process on how they wrote their book, because I think like maybe their size, the way they do it is good as well.
Mm. That's very interesting because, I know that, everybody that do write books, a lot of us have different ways of actually doing it. And, I know that I can only, mine come together once I do my outlines. I have to outline before I write. If I
Ah,
don't outline, then it's not going to sit well with me.
hmm. So when
So,
so when you outline it, do you write down the entire outline of the book and then you
yes,
go into like chapter one and finish that and then
yes.
roll it into chapter two? That's a good
Hmm.
way.
Hmm.
I do you think that sets a limit on you though? I'm asking.
No, actually, it don't. But like for me, if the creative juice ain't going, I'm not
Hmm.
writing.
Yeah,
But the juices are more on some days or some weeks than they are others, because there's been times where I've
absolutely.
actually sat down and I've actually been able to knock out 3 chapters. But then there's also those times where I may just get one.
Hmm.
But but when the juices aren't there, I can't write.
Yeah.
And when you try to force it, then that's when you come up with some bad stuff.
Yeah, you start coming up with redundant information and information that didn't matter when you're trying to force something. So I just stop then.
Right.
But I guess when I said does that limit your writing, like once you make that outline, and I'm just asking because that sounds like a good idea. But like, what if I wanted to add like a sub chapter, and like you have something you want to say in this chapter, but it doesn't meet the what the chapter is talking about? How would you do something like that?
Well, if it was, if it's something I need to add when I go back over it, once it's complete, if I feel like I need to add some more to it, then I'll add whatever I think is a nice flavor that actually blends and transitions, as it continues to flow throughout for the book.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of like what I do when I once I write my mess, I line everything up and make sure. Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of I get to the same place you're getting to. It just takes me a little longer because I just want to say everything. I have so much in my head that I'm trying to get down, on paper, and then that way, once I organize it in some kind of crazy way, it makes sense.
Well, I actually, I was just thinking about that because I was going to ask you what made you come up with that, because I actually think I would like to try that, because that sounds like a really good approach as well. Because especially if it's one of those that, like let's say you're talking about purpose, and you're doing self-help and you're trying to motivate and get people on the business side and so forth. I really like that. I like that approach.
So here, this is what happened. Like sometimes I'm driving places, right, and I come up with these ideas for a good video, but by the time I
Mhm.
get where I'm going, I done forgot what it was. Like I would literally start pulling over to the side of the road so I could go ahead and do the video then,
Mhm.
because like if I wait, other things go into my mind. Like I'm always thinking about stuff, and so like for me, it's easier if I'm in a writing mood. I'm gonna write down every idea that I have about this book. I'm gonna write everything I want people to learn in this book, and and then I'm going to put it together under chapters, but the key is to getting everything I want to say. And that may take, a month to get everything I want to say because I'm really focused on that now. That's what I'm focused on. And if you read The Secret, whatever you focus on, it happens. So,
Yep.
that's what I want. I want it to happen for me. And I'm not going to force speed. If it's nothing to write, I'm just going home. You
Yep.
know, ain't nothing
Yep.
to write. Just going home. I don't need to work here today. I might make a video or something, but I'm not going to do any forced writing. But for me, just I guess the way my mind works, I get ideas all the time. Like, people should know this, and then I'll write it down. Or people should know that, and I'll write it down.
Mhm.
And then I'll make stuff based off of what that, quick title was. Or, and yeah, so what I mean by that is and keep going with it and going with it. And, I'll have the notebook all the way spread out then, and then I'll go back and type it in and correct the words and let the what do you call that when it fixes the words for you. 'Cause I'm
Yeah.
not the greatest
That's
speller either.
yeah. It yeah. Auto correct.
Autocorrect, yeah. So that was the first tool of AI, autocorrect.
So when I contacted you and I was telling you that we do Black History 365, and I
Uh-huh.
asked you who was the most influential person on your life and your career. You mentioned Malcolm X was the person that influenced your life, and Sean Carter
Yeah,
influenced your career.
yeah.
So, can you tell us, how has Malcolm X influenced your personal beliefs and values?
So that was the very first autobiography I ever read, that I could date myself back to on my own, not forced by school. That was the
Mhm.
first one I ever read, and it's not so much of the ending of his life, but it was how he transitioned different areas in life,
Mhm.
from, just a kid, raised the way he was raised, then getting into the hustle life, and then, going to prison and learning all these things in prison, which made him come out like super aggressive against, the opposite race. To by the end of his life, he was more accepting of all of that. And he saw life so different than he did from the beginning. Like life was light years different in that short 30 something years, just like, wow, right?
Mhm. Life was lifing.
Life was lifing. But, the things that he learned on the streets were like lessons
Mhm.
when he got way down here.
Mhm.
He took all that information into prison, and he was against the change, like all people are against changing. And then when he did finally change, he got out and he applied that. Like, what if everybody learned something here and applied it here? How much better the world would be? you know, right here. He applied it. And then he learned some more things right here and applied it immediately.
Mhm.
It took, things that happened to him for him to finally understand that we're all one, but the way that he learned it, like he definitely had five different sections of his life. And I love listening to people that learn. They don't just get stuck in this way or this way. They learn, they transition, they adapt, and they change.
Mhm.
And that is the exact story of his life.
So, what specific lessons from Malcolm X do you apply to your entrepreneurial journey?
As far as entrepreneurship is adapting and changing
Mhm.
immediately, like course correction, pivot, learn, use. You
Mhm.
get what I'm saying? So uh, a client could be one way during the initial session, right? But when
Mhm.
they start paying you, they could be a totally different person. So you have to, adapt to whatever style they are right then, because
Mhm.
they already have their wall built up and you're facing that wall. Now you got to figure out how to jump over that wall, adapt it, and then continue. And that's
Mhm.
that's what Malcolm X did through his entire life. He adapted to every situation he was in, whether he was hustling on the streets, whether he was in prison. You see how quick he adapted in prison? Like,
Very.
that was insane. Like, reading the autobiography of it, like, you could visualize it. Same thing with getting out into the Muslim world. Like, he adapted from this to this and made the change.
Mhm.
And even into the final era of his life, because he had, again, 5 eras of life that I thought were adaptable moments that he understood. And so he was aware of who he was from this moment to this moment. And awareness is key in life.
So, in what ways has Jay Z, Sean Carter, influenced your approach to business?
So this guy is a true businessman. Like, for me, like, the way that I think I was discussing earlier, he's very particular about who he associates himself with. Like, he makes, and not only that, but he learns as he goes. You can watch the different stages of, you know, 96 Jay-Z to 2006 Jay-Z, from the Reasonable Doubt to the Black Album, right? And how
Mhm.
much he grew just in those, that was 10 years right there. In
Yep.
10 years, the change, I mean, not only just like his wisdom grew, but the things that he talked about, he grew in that. Like, it wasn't just about, like, money and this, that, and the other. It was, he grew, he really grew. And even from Black Album to I think the last one, Blueprint 3, Watch the Throne, like, his vocabulary grew, his business mind grew. He even had one album where he was really trying to, like, tell people how to invest and buy paintings. And, it was just like, it wasn't received well, but it was like, wow, you had the time to, and the guts to put that out there, even though you knew up front that wouldn't be received well, because that's not what the music world is about. But the fact that he did it anyway was,
Mhm.
that was pretty inspiring.
Mhm.
But most of his business dealings, like the title move, the um, that was very impressive. I love the way he buys stuff super cheap and he has time to let it grow into something that he can sell for a lot of money. And that, if we all had that patience with, like, stocks and, you know, uh, just have a big portfolio to be able to just wait for it to mature at the right moment and then collect. I think that's important to our race. You
Mhm.
know, is I don't think we know enough about it. I think we dabble in it enough to, some people make money and some people don't, but to really know about it or really have a financial advisor that can help you with it, I think that's where a lot of our race, our culture really misses the ball. And I'm glad there's things out there like Earn Your Leisure and to help with that, and Ashley Fox and all those people out there really trying to educate people, because that is important to wealth in our community.
Mhm.
We lack so much wealth, and it's going to be a time where we have the wealth, but we don't have to wait so long. We just have to value it.
So, what aspects of Sean Carter's business strategies do you admire and try to emulate?
So as far as, like, um, I listen to a lot of his interviews, and I like the way that he speaks
Mhm.
about who he is.
Yeah.
Like, one time he said he walks in a room as himself. He doesn't pretend to be anybody else. And in the kind of culture that he is in, That's a hard walk,
Yeah.
and so like I feel like we all have to string together to have that walk, and that's why we become entrepreneurs so that we can walk as who we are.
Hmm.
I think that's important, uh, to not pretend to be something you're not, because we begin to fail then, like
Hmm.
that's not really you, you
Hmm.
know, and that's what stops us from being what we should be, is because we're pretending to be something we're not.
Hmm.
And so, like, I would love for everybody to walk in a room as who they are. You can't do it all the time, but it would be nice to not have to worry about the consequences of who you are.
So, how do you see Malcolm X's legacy shaping the conversation around entrepreneurship in the Black community today?
I mean, and Malcolm X is a true icon. Like, he has streets. Let's see, but he don't just have one street. He has many of them. And so here's the thing. Back to the question. I was just making a joke, but um, I think that he built pride inside of Black people. Like, not saying Martin Luther King didn't, but if you look at the difference in the guys, right? His pride wasn't and it's not about coming together, but it's about knowing who you are. Who are you? This is who I am. And I'm coming like this. And you need to accept this part of me. And that's where there was no mistake about who Malcolm X was at all. No mistake at all. I am this man. I am a strong man, and I'm walking towards you. You're not gonna scare me with your guns. You're not, because we have them too. Like he was the epitome of man. He was it. Like no, for
Like
real.
you,
There was
like you
like
said, by any means necessary.
any means necessary, and so like, and that's not taking anything away from any other leader, but it was just like he was so adamant about it. It was great. It was great. It's a great read. It's a great watch. I probably seen the movie a million times on top of reading the book a couple times. So it was just one of those. It's just one of those guys. He's just one of those guys where you can't help but respect him. There was no way you wouldn't respect him.
Mm. So, how have both Malcolm X and Sean Carter demonstrated resilience, and how does that in your work?
Because I feel like I talk to people as I am. If so, going back to the Sean Carter thing, I go into rooms as who I am. I'm smiling. I'm a nice person, but I'm also a business person. So that's like the great mix between Malcolm and Sean Carter, right? So I'm gonna let you know that I am masculine. I am man. I have no fear, but also I have business savvy. I understand strategy. I understand business, and I think that's like a perfect mix of a person to me, coming in masculine, strong, knowing the information and able to adapt, learn, and be able to just be one person, which is me.
Hmm. Oh wow. Um, so, how do you feel both Malcolm X and Sean Carter represent the aspirations and struggles of African Americans?
So I think as far as Malcolm X, again, him being, the kind of leader that he was, he was an alpha leader. Like he's in front, he's not afraid, he's strong, you know, that's the kind of person you want representing you in any case. Because he was very educated about everything he talked about. He had facts and data. If you listen to any of his stuff, he had facts and data to back up everything.
Hmm.
So you want to go into every situation with a person like that right next to you, because you know that that person is right, and you want to be on the side of right at the end of every day.
Yeah. As an entrepreneur, what responsibilities do you feel towards your community inspired by these influential figures?
I mean, you can see the influence of Jay-Z almost everywhere. I mean, from I remember when people was wearing jerseys and then he said, I don't wear jerseys, I'm 30 plus. And all of a sudden everybody's wearing a crisp pair of jeans and a button up. So like it was funny to see that transition. But as far as people knowing that they're able to see $1 billion if they work hard. Like he's the first hip hop billionaire, right? So are able. Once you see somebody, one person do it, it's like everybody just running towards the same goal now. How do I get to it? So, with that being said, when you reach for the stars, you'll at least get to a place you've never been. So, if I reach for that 2.5 billion that he's worth and I touch 8 million, well, I still came out a winner, right? Like
Mhm,
that's the goal is still to be a winner. Change the trajectory of where you came from to where you are.
mhm. Oh, wow. Now, I want to tell you, Coach Cannon, that was very powerful because that resonates, I think, more so with people than we can imagine.
Yeah.
Because especially if they critically thought about what you just said, that from where you are to where you began to where you are now, and you've seen that kind of growth, you've already won.
Yeah.
So you just want to keep winning.
That's
Is the
it.
thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You don't want to, you know, you can learn lessons and you're supposed to learn lessons. But you want at the end of the day, why not change the entire scope of your family? No matter what. Just change that.
Mhm. How do you hope to create a legacy that honors the teachings of Malcolm X and the entrepreneurial spirit of Sean Carter?
Well, hopefully, as far as that goes, hopefully people identify with the person that I am, which is, I try to be strong for everyone. I try to make sure that I'm taking care of everyone. And I feel like that was the epitome of Malcolm X. He was fighting for an entire nation. He was for an entire nation. Like he really was fighting for justice and equality, but not in an equality aspect of I'm trying to say this right. Uh, he wanted to see his race win just as much or more. He didn't believe in just uh, we should be friends, but we need to win. Like the whole thing is on our backs, and we need to win. And I appreciate that you have that much faith in humanity and that much faith into us that you believe that and you're going strong with that message. Like that's encouraging, even with, people hating him and not responding well to what he's saying. He still moved forward with it.
And that's exactly where it should go. Last question for you. In what ways do you view your work as breaking barriers similar to those tackled by Malcolm X and Jay Z?
So that goes back to what I said earlier, like where I came from to where I am today. Like I'm light years away from my childhood. And, not that I grew up some kind of poor anything, because my mom did very well for me. She did everything she could to make sure I am who I am today. But like life is life be lifing. And it's not
I
a
love
plug.
that.
I promise you, it's not a plug. But excuse me. But yeah, what you want to do is look be able to turn around and be like, wow, look how far I came, right? And I
Hmm.
can do that now. Like, not that I couldn't do it before, but I really can do that now. Like, you know, it's kind of one of those feelings where the more you help people, the further you get. The
Hmm.
further you get, the more you help people. And then the more you help people, the further you get. And then the further you get, the more you help people. And so, like, that's the cycle that we should be really running. You know, it's not a big money grab. What it is you're helping people. And then you get blessed for helping somebody. And then you help some more people. And then you get blessed for that. Because helping people is really what it's all about. Like, we're supposed to be making the world better than the way we found it.
Ooh, what you talking about? You better say that.
Yeah, like that's the truth. And so like that's why I keep talking about like I wanted to help make these books for people to be better salespeople without having to read 300 pages. Like I make the YouTubes and the motivational YouTubes are good. I really like them. I get inspired off of them and people do. But what's really important is that I have leaders on my YouTube that tell you how the secret sauce. It's the secret box. They tell you what they did to get to that point. And so, like, they're helping people and they're getting blessed off of it. And they're doing it without asking for anything. They're just on my show telling their story. And you do the same thing. You've been helping people for years. And
Mhm.
look at all the YouTubes you have on there. I mean, it's hundreds of them. And you're helping people get somewhere where they never been before. So we really thank you. I don't know if you get this a lot, but thank you so much for helping people getting somewhere where they never been, for being that rock. People don't know what it takes to do this job, to be a podcaster or to write a book. People don't understand the responsibility you hold is that important because somebody's going to take one of these books and they're going to hold truth to fire on it and
Mhm.
hope that it works out for them. You are giving somebody hope. You
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? I
Yes,
am
sir.
giving somebody hope. And
Yes, sir.
so like we don't it's a thankless job to be a coach. You
Mhm.
know, because the money you get isn't like it's not life changing on it. It's but what it is just it's for the time that you use to help them get to where they are. And the goal is and the hope is that you've helped the person get somewhere where they never been before and they take somebody along with them,
Mhm.
and help them get somewhere. And you've helped people get places. I've seen the views on your YouTube. That had to help somebody. And you
Mhm.
continue to do it. It is a thankless job, man. I understand. I
Mhm.
understand. So thank you so much for having me on. And thank you so much for having
Mhm.
everybody on and doing everything you can to get the information that people need to be successful.
Wow. Well, you know what, I just thank you. Believe me, you just don't know. Every time I know this is your second time on the show, but the one thing, again, as I said earlier, is that the passion and the jovialness of your voice, it makes such a difference. So I just want you to know that,
Thank you.
because when you see that positive energy, because you have that spark all the time.
I'm all day.
That positive energy, I'm telling you, and that's what we want to actually project. But I mean, you are doing that. So this is what not only people need to see, but people in our communities that we're working on and trying to build and to grow those communities. This is the energy that I want them
Yes.
to have,
Yes.
because it's that energy that makes that much difference in the everyday living that they have.
Yes. You're right. And that's why I do it because I want people to be great. I just think greatness is in everybody. The sun goes around the entire earth,
Hmm.
and so like it's for everybody to shine.
Hmm.
And so like again, like I just think people you want to give people their flowers while you can, and I thank you, man, because like I said, I went through and I've watched a few of them, and you have some really inspiring people on there. Especially after I was on the show, I watched like the next five after that just to. I said, did I do a good job? Let me look and see.
But actually, you know something? I mean, I guess we'll probably we'll talk a whole lot more about that. But as the new things that are growing as the show is evolving, I mean, it's just all about the people that have been here and the people that have been here multiple times, like yourself. It's like it's the alumni of
Yeah,
what it is to just build,
yeah,
and
and we're gonna
so
continue to build.
exactly, and it's
Yeah,
going
and
to
we're going
keep
to
giving.
continue to build, not only here, but where you're at and everywhere. I'm getting booked more and more for different things. And so like we got a thing with Starbucks out where I get to sign some books that I've never seen that done before. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm at the in Houston at the National Black Book Festival this year. So I'm pretty excited about that. And we got some workshops coming up with my latest book. And, just everything is just so exciting. Like, I tell people, I even, I feel like I be coaching myself because I'm like always like super excited when something happens, and like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened, but it's like, that's how we should be about everything, just you, you put that energy out there and then more of it comes back to you, and so like that's really what it's all about, is just being grateful, being happy, and making other people feel the same way. Whoever I I used to get coffee every morning from McDonald's, but I didn't feel the same way that I felt when I get like my morning coffee from Starbucks. They're always so cheerful, you know, versus somebody just sticking their hand out with the coffee. Like that makes a difference in your day. You would
Yeah,
not realize the first person you talk to that's not a family member, the first person you talk to, that will dictate your day. And
right.
I wanted to change the trajectory of my day. So I started going to Starbucks. I heard they have good customer service. I don't care how the coffee tastes. The coffee is the coffee. But somebody to sit there and be like, hey, how you doing? And everybody in the Starbucks I go to, they know my name and they know what I'm coming for. And it's like a cheers almost. So
Right.
it's like, look, it makes a difference like to stick here. And versus, hey, how you doing? How's everything treating you? The voice and the vibe and the coffee all together. Now that dictates how I'm gonna treat the next person because life is transference of emotions.
Mhm.
Give
So,
that to people. Give people that.
so in closing, do you have any words of wisdom, encouragement, telling people how to connect with you on social media, your websites,
Yeah.
anything that you like to tell the audience?
If you want to book me, you can book me at cannonsalestraining.com. Uh, if you want one of my books, they're on Amazon under Emery Cannon. Uh, you can catch me on Facebook, Cannon Sales Consulting, or you can look me up under Emery Cannon on Facebook, LinkedIn, Coach Emery Cannon, and Instagram, Emery Can Inspire. Emery Can, EMERYCAN, Inspire. Uh, on Instagram. So yes, like I use my name for everything to make it real easy because I got a very unique name, Emery with the E, not an O. So not Emory University, Emory Board.
Well, I want to thank you again for being here. Another great show. And, again, it's the inspiration and the motivation, that you
Thank you
have,
so
that
much.
I know that people that are watching have more than got some of the knowledge that you were giving, especially talking about sales and the approach to moving in that industry.
Yes, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to at least tell people about it. And if it's something they want to do and want to learn more about, I'm more than happy to talk with them. And you keep doing an amazing job at what you do, and I'm gonna keep watching, and the world's gonna keep watching with me.
Well, thank you all for that. And for those of you that are watching on the YouTube channel, if you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe and get all of the notifications so that every time the show goes live, you will get the notification. Any of the posts that's posted on the channel, you're able to catch those and read those as well. Or there's announcements that will come up that you'll be able to get. I would appreciate the support, and we thank you all for actually taking the time to be here with us tonight. We want to thank Coach Cannon again for doing another magnificent job and to helping those out there that are looking for maybe career changes or how to get into a new career, where they can go and some things that they could do. Please, if you are looking and you think that this is an area that you're interested in, please connect with Coach Cannon, because I'm more than sure that the information that he has to give you will more than inspire, but will help you to get to that next level. So we will see you guys tomorrow night for another great show. I want to thank you all again. Please have a wonderful evening. And again, we'll see you tomorrow on America in White, on America in Black and White, where we're coloring conversations on America's canvas. You all have a great evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.